Howdy, everybody, and welcome back to part 4 of our Display Manager tutorial. So last time we set up a system so that we could have our view would automatically correct its size to maintain a pixel perfect resolution, no matter what display we are displaying our game on, right? So sometimes, though, that may not be the ideal. And just for examples, this would be like in StarCraft or some sort of competitive game. You want to make sure that all monitors have the same view at all time because you don't want them to be able to figure out how to change their monitor so that they can get a bigger view of the game than the other players. That would give them a significant advantage, right? So, in this case, I've turned off our pixel perfect math right here because what we are going to do instead is, we want to keep displaying our game in a pixel perfect way, right? Especially if we're a pixel game. I mean, if we aren't a pixel game, then it doesn't really matter. But if we are a pixel game, we want to display our game as pixel perfect, right? So we need to figure out a way to display our game pixel perfect. And if I can say pixel perfect one more time, who knows? I might get a reward. Anyways, so what we're going to do is we are going to set up a letterbox mode for our game. So how are we going to do that? Well, let me zoom in here to get you closer to the code, and we'll we'll get cracking. So to start off with, we are going to need a new boolean here. Letterbox underscore mode equal to true or false, depending on which way you want it. And if not letterbox underscore mode, then do things as per normal. Else, do things as we would do them for letterbox. So we can actually just we can do that for there. But as far as it goes with this, you can choose whether or not you want your game to be pixel perfect. If you don't mind 1 or 2 pixels of distortion, then it's not really going to matter. I'll cover this more when I do the epilogue. So you can stretch it perfectly, or you can just keep that way. So anyways, next up, so just keep this thing as is. Now we need to do some fancy coding. Let me pull up my code. There we go. First thing first, we are going to turn off manual drawing. Application underscore surface underscore draw underscore enable false. So why are we going to do this? Because we want to draw the application surface at our arbitrary location where we want to draw it, as opposed to where GameMaker tries to draw the application surface on its own. And we're going to copy some code here because a lot of this is going to be the same as usual, but at the same time, hopefully it'll be a bit different. So we're going to have our ideal width, our ideal height, our display width, our display height, and view width and view height. Going to want to keep those 2. And last but not least, we'll just turn that off there. So we get the actual. And as usual, this pops up. It's because, for some reason, Windows 7 doesn't like OBS. So every single time it'll do that. Every single time I turn on OBS, it'll do that. Alright, so that should be all the properties in place, right? So we are going to want to do this one of two different ways here. So make me full screen 2 ways, windowed borderless, my preferred way, or standard. So we could do window underscore set underscore full screen true, which would be the standard full screen, which captures the monitor completely, or we can do window underscore set underscore size, and we're basically doing the same things right here. So display window. Go display underscore width, display underscore height. All right. So how are we going to get our application surface to draw where we want it? We're going to handle that over in our, we're going to add some draw events. But to do that, we need to calculate some offsets. So we need a x underscore offset equal to display underscore width minus ideal underscore width times zoom divided by 2, and y underscore offset underscore is equal to display underscore height underscore minus ideal underscore height underscore times zoom underscore da 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 da. All right, there we go. So what is this going to do? So we take our display width, so our width here, and we take our ideal width. So if our display is 1280 and our ideal width is 1024, and we are zooming just once because that's how much it would fit in there. So we'd have 1280 minus 1024. Then we divide that by 2. So that means we want 128 pixels on each side of our when we draw the application surface. You might want to put a floor on there as well if you don't want any 0.5s to happen. However, I don't really know if that would actually affect things. It depends on how you set up your game. Because this kind of, I believe that games like Binding of Isaac do this, letterbox mode. And I'll show you some tricks that you can do with it to make it integrate with your game a bit in a second here. So, resizing. So we're going to want to resize our application surface. Again, so it's basically this again. All right, and now there are some things you can do to try and move the GUI layer around. However, they don't really work very well for creating a letterbox setup in the way that I want it to work. So instead of using the built-in GUI layer, we're going to build our own GUI layer. So this would be just for when we are in letterbox mode. So we would go here with create a new GUI layer. We're just going to call this super GUI. Equal to surface underscore create, ideal underscore width, and again, your GUI can be whatever size you want it to be. Ideal underscore height times zoom underscore. But in this case, I've made it to match my game in general. So display underscore set underscore GUI underscore size, ideal underscore width underscore ideal underscore height underscore. Not really necessary, but I've set it up anyways. If if I were to accidentally call the display underscore get underscore GUI underscore width command, then this would hopefully I'd have to also do that as well. But by having that there, you can kind of use the standard GUI commands without messing up. And last but not least, just going to center our game again. And go to the next room. Alright, so that's everything taken care of in the setup. So let's add in our new super GUI. And let's do our drawing and whatnot. So we are going to add we're going to go into draw, and we're going to do a post draw. And let's see if I can pull this up here. Draw events. So over here, the as far as Game Maker goes, let's see. Nope, I can't really find it so well, but this is the order that there was a simpler image somewhere that I can't remember where it was that showed the draw order, but this is the draw order. So we have the draw begin, and we have the game sets up our viewport, then it does a draw begin, then you have your draw, then you have your draw end. And so what happens is there's actually a pre-draw event as well in there. And what happens in the pre-draw event is if you're comfortable using surfaces, there's a command called surface underscore set underscore target, which you use to set your surface target. So in the pre-draw event, silently in the background, the game maker sets your draw target to be the application surface, right? And then everything draws on it in the draw begin, the draw end, and then you have the post draw event where your application surface is then reset. So your surface target is reset, so it's no longer pointing towards your application surface. So we are going to do that manually now. So if not letterbox underscore mode, then exit. We don't need to do anything in here if we are not in the letterbox mode. But if we are in letterbox mode, then we want to draw a cool background, right? So let's see. I don't really have anything here. Let's create a new sprite. Pictures. Archives. All sorts of random pictures in here. Wallpaper. That's what I'm looking for. Go with chess. There we go. We got a cool little chess background there. And I think that's good. Oh wait, I should actually probably give it a name. There we go. Kill you. Kill you. And kill you and you. So what we're going to do here is, so we've centered our application. So we've got these offsets that we created earlier, and what they're going to do is they're going to center our application surface to the middle of the screen. leaving black space around our application surface. But we don't want black space, right? Well, maybe you do. And a lot of games that actually you can blend it in. It works great. And in fact, you don't even have to do the extra draw a new GUI thing if you don't want to, if you just use a black background. But if you say want to have your own custom background that blends in with the game in general. So, and like I was saying, with Binding of Isaac, they do this by you. It has a tiled background that looks like it's just part of the room, but it allows them it allows them to fool you into thinking that the game is full screen when it's actually letterboxed. So in this case, you can do that here. So we're going to draw a cool background. Underscore stretched. Underscore app underscore background. Oh wait. Chess underscore background. That's what he called. 000. Display underscore width. Display underscore height. So what does this do? We're going to what we are going to do here is we are drawing from the 0 point. We're subimage 0, so then 0 point, which will always be the top left of the room, or top left of the window, if possible, in this case. And we are setting it to be the width of our display. So that should draw our image stretched all the way across the screen. So now we want to draw the game. So draw underscore surface. Surface. X underscore offset. Y underscore offset. So there we go. So now we are drawing our application surface at our X and Y offset positions. And last but not least, draw the super GUI. So if surface underscore exists, check to make sure it exists because surfaces like to disappear. Draw underscore surface underscore stretched. And we throw in a bunch of code here. Our super GUI, X offset it, Y offset, ideal width times zoom, ideal height times zoom. Else, so otherwise, then recreate our GUI, our super GUI, and then redraw it just like this. So there we go. So I think we should probably draw something on the super GUI just to show that it even exists. But I'll do that in a bit, I guess. So I think that's everything we need. I'm going to give it a try now, see what happens. It's probably going to bug out. Who knows? Oh, it didn't bug out. Great. Let me zoom out here. There you go. So as you can see now, our game is drawn at the pixel perfect size that it's been designated for it, and we now draw in the background our background image or whatever we want to have, or if we don't have a background image, it will just be black. So yeah, there we go. Good flag, mister. And I have no idea why I'm seeing stuff through the helmet there. See, because the helmet is like masking the game surface. Anyways, just kind of weird. Oh well, so it'll just be depending on your game or how you've set up your sprites. Anyway, so now we got our game there. As you can see over here, this is where the regular GUI surface draws. The regular GUI tries to draw at the position where the application surface would draw. There is a function, let's see, it's called, if we go back to over here in the code, display underscore set underscore GUI underscore maximize, and you can use that function to move the GUI over, and I would say use that instead of making your own GUI, except that if you try to move it over, you can't control the width and the height of the GUI. It tries to draw the same width and height that the application surface would draw. So you end up having your new GUI layer overlapping off the edges. So then it becomes rather difficult to work with at that point. So maybe eventually they'll make another function that allows you to control the width and height of the GUI independently as well as the position of the GUI. I wish they would do that. That way I didn't have to make my own GUI layer. Anyway, so that's letterbox mode. And you should be able to use that to get some great effects in your games, hopefully. So anyways, thank you everybody for watching. And if you have questions, don't forget to leave a comment. And I believe next time on this series, I will do one more video kind of talking about the pros and cons of each different display system. So we'll see how that turns out. And good luck with your programming.